We're working.
Right, we can now start. There's no fire alarm drill anticipated today. If the fire alarm sounds, please leave the building through the nearest fire exit by following the running man signs above the doors. Make your way to the rear of the car park. Last time we did this, there was an alarm. The organiser of the meeting will tell you when it's safe to return. That's Wendy. Toilets are available in the stairwell of the building at each floor landing. Water is available from the water cooler in reception. And finally, please make sure all phones are switched off or muted. Right, good morning. I'm Councillor Eileen Wragg and welcome to the Planning Committee meeting on Tuesday, 19th August 2025. As Councillor Davey has given his apologies, I will be the chair for today's meeting, and with the committee's agreement, I would like to ask Councillor Simon Smith to be vice chair. Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you very much, members. That's unanimous. Would you like to come to the chair, Simon? Thank you. Man of many talents, Simon. He got the live stream fixed. Thank you. The supporting officers present here today are Wendy Ormsby, Development Manager, Damien Hunter to my right, Planning Solicitor, and Wendy Harris on the end, Invaluable Democratic Services Officer. The presenting officers for today's application will be Nigel Barrett, Charlie McCulloch, Tina Song Ashdown, and Jamie Quinton. This meeting today is being streamed live to the Council's YouTube account. So can I remind all members and officers contributing to the meeting to use a microphone or your comments will not be heard. And please can all phones be muted? I've asked that already. We will now start the meeting by doing a roll call of committee members and declarations of interest. I'll start, Councillor Eileen Wragg. Declaration of interest, which I think I would take on block because I think we've all been lobbied, and that is 250063, and it's a major full application for Broadclist Land Exeter Substation. Okay, Wendy.
Are you doing that on behalf of all the councillors?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Vice Chair, Councillor Smith.
Present, no declarations.
Thank you. Councillor Brian Bailey.
Present and Broadclist, Bess.
Thank you. Councillor Barlow. Brian.
Present, Wendy, and no declarations that I'm aware of other than the one that's been declared by Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Bloxham.
Present, Wendy, and can I declare and effect some prejudicial NRI against agenda item 9240687 OUT, so I'll leave for that item. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Colin Brown.
Well, only the one that for the what Eileen said. So brain's not working yet. It's a bit early. Yeah, and I'm also the ward member for 24/2226.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman.
Present, the same as everyone else, declaration.
Thank you. Councillor Bethany Collins.
Present, thank you, and nothing other than lobbying.
Thank you. Councillor Faithful.
Present, only the normal lobbying.
Thank you. Councillor Gazzard, do we have him here? No. Councillor Haggerty.
Present and usual lobbying.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, present and the same one.
Thank you. And Councillor Levine.
Present and the same as everybody else, except I got more.
Thank you. So the non-committee members, do you have any declarations?
No.
Lovely. Okay, back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, agenda item 1, registered speakers. So speakers for today on the planning applications can be found on pages 4 and 5 of the agenda. Item 2, minutes of the previous meetings, pages 6 to 11. Is it members' wish that I, as the chair for today, sign the minutes of the meeting held on 15th of July as a true and accurate record, please? Yeah? Yes, thank you. Can I sign those wherever they are? I'll sign.
I've got you. I put them on your
Oh,
slip.
beg your pardon. Yeah, yeah, so you did. Okay. Thank you. Right, agenda item 3 is apologies. Wendy?
Yeah, so I've received 3 apologies. Councillor Ollie Davey, Councillor Mike Howe and Councillor Sarah Chamberlain.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Right, thank you. Declaration of interest, we've already done. Matters of urgency, there are none. Item 6, any items after the public have been excluded, there are none. Planning appeal statistics, pages 12 to 36, update from Wendy Ormsby, Development Manager. Thank you, Wendy.
Good morning. So looking through the list of decided appeals, the ones of the there's a couple of note, but we actually touched upon them last committee. So 23-1276 MOUT, land adjacent to Hillcrest, Alliscombe. We discussed last committee, which was relating to an appeal dismissed for 20 houses outside of the village of Alliscombe. And similarly, we did touch upon the appeal 240431 MOUT by Taylor Wimpey at land east of Colstocks Road, Fennerton, which allowed 86 dwellings. Again, I think we did run through the inspector's reasonings for that last month, but they are summarised in the report. Unless anybody's got any further questions on those two. And then we've also had 23-1269 Full, the appeal by 3 West at land south of Meeting Lane, Limpston, and that was for the construction of 42 residential units. That appeal was allowed, and the appeal, again, because we had following the initial refusal of that application, we then allowed an outline planning permission, which obviously accepted the principle of development on the site. That appeal just focused solely on the pepper potting of affordable housing and impact on trees. And in that instance, the inspector, whilst acknowledging that the houses were not, the affordable homes were not well, could have been better distributed around the site, felt that that on its own was not sufficient, having regard to the tilted balance in favour of sustainable development, to justify refusing, hence that was allowed. The application for a full award of costs against the council was refused. And I think those are the main appeal decisions of note that have come in, other than I would mention, so in the list, we have had a decision in since this agenda was published for a site at West Hill, and that is 232612 OUT, land at Lower Broad Oak Road, West Hill. And that was an appeal, has been allowed for the construction of 5 dwellings. That was, that has some bearing for one of the applications we will be considering today at West Hill. The site at Broad Oak Road was refused under delegated powers on the basis that officers considered more, primarily that it was an unsustainable location without ready, accessible routes to local facilities, and also that there would be landscape harm. The inspector agreed with both of those aspects, but in the planning balance considered that the delivery of housing outweighed the harm that would arise from that situation. So that was allowed. As I said, we've got another application being considered today for development outside of the built-up area boundary of West Hill. So unless members have any questions about any others, those are the main ones to draw to your attention today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think Councillor Faithful, did you have a question? No? Okay.
This is my list of the layout, so that don't worry, Eileen, this is
Oh, okay.
confusion.
Oh, right. Okay, thank you, Wendy. Then we go to agenda item 9. What happened to 8? Anyway, planning application 220687. It's an outline for land at Beggars Lane, Honiton, pages 73 to 109. And Councillor Bloxham is leaving the room. Thank you. Right, then we go to the planning officer, Senior Development Control Officer, Charlie McCullough. Please.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an application which is before committee as the officer view differs from that of one of the ward members, and it's seeking outline planning permission for up to 6 dwellings with means of access to be considered at this stage, which is proposed from Beggars Lane, with all other matters, layout, scale, external appearance and landscaping reserved for future consideration. There have been representations, as I say, from Councillor Jenny Brown, who's raised highways concerns. Honiton Town Council is in support of the application, and there have been 8 local objections relating to overdevelopment, highway safety, construction, wildlife, amenity and arboricultural impacts, impact on the setting of listed buildings, and need for surface water drainage solutions to be secured. So here's an aerial view of the site. We're just down here in the bottom left corner at the moment, so quite close to the site. It's an undeveloped greenfield parcel, quite unusual in that location within the built-up area boundary. It's just under 0.4 of a hectare and is within flood zone 1. Lies to the west of the town centre. As I say, it's within the built-up area boundary. It's bounded by Exeter Road to the north and Beggars Lane to the south, with Beggars Lane being a no-through road at this end, but there is pedestrian access. So the immediate surrounding area is, to the northeast and west here, is fairly low-density residential development, with to the south more dense residential development and commercial and industrial development there to the southwest. The listed buildings are on Exeter Road there and on the opposite side there. And as you can see, the north and south boundaries here have trees within them, all of which are TPO'd. And the east and west boundaries are a mix of fencing and lower hedge planting. So there's the site in a clearer format. And then this plan shows the proposed access to the site, the access arrangements, which would be from Beggars Lane. Shows visibility displays in either direction, which the Local Highways Authority are content would be appropriate. The creation of the access would involve the loss of one of the TPO'd trees on the Beggars Lane frontage. And that is something that has been discussed with the arboricultural officers at the council, with a view to trying to find the best solution for access there, because wherever you put it on that site, it would involve the loss of at least one of the trees or harm to one of the trees. And so that was the tree which was considered to be of the least overall value to allow access to be created. So in terms of what that might look like, I'd just clarify this layout is indicative only. It's not what's being considered for approval. It's just one way in which the site could be developed. And the original scheme which came in was for 8 dwellings, but that has been reduced down to 6 as proposed now. That's considered to provide an appropriate density, maximises the development potential of the site whilst respecting the grain of the surrounding development. The conservation officers confirmed that the development site would not be likely to harm the setting of the nearby listed buildings, and some archaeological field evaluation has already been undertaken and further archaeological work could be secured by condition. So here are some views from the site. So you can see from the bottom left map annotation the direction of the photo. That's viewing east along Beggars Lane. You can see some of the trees on the boundary there. It's a view in the opposite direction, viewing west. This is a view further to the east on approaching the roundabout at the junction of Sidmouth Road and Beggars Lane. And you can see Beggars Lane to the left-hand side here. So there have been concerns raised in relation to the safety of this junction and the effect of intensifying its use. The application has been supported by a highways technical note and a stage 1 road safety audit, which didn't highlight any inherent deficiencies with that access. And the local highway authority has raised no objection, subject to a condition to secure off-site highway improvements. So those would take the form most likely of some white line build-outs here to make the access junction more prominent, and additional signage on the approach to that mini roundabout to make drivers aware of that roundabout coming up. This is a view west from the same roundabout down Beggars Lane. Again, the lack of footway provision has been raised as an issue and limited street lighting, with concerns raised regarding the increased vehicular use of that lane. But again, the local highways authority have suggested that the access arrangements are acceptable and have no requirements to upgrade Beggars Lane itself. That's a view of the Exeter Road frontage with the site in behind here. This would be unaffected by the development, and the same in the opposite direction. They're viewing northeast along Exeter Road. This photo shows the listed buildings, which I referred to earlier, with the site further back and behind those trees. And this is just a summary of the key points, which you're not going to be able to read all of those, so I shall read them out. So reasons against development of Greenfield site, and so some harm to the character of the area, loss of a protected tree and potential harm through intensification in the vehicular use of Beggars Lane and its junction with Sidmouth Road. And in terms of reasons for support, it's a sustainable location within the built-up area boundary with good access to services and facilities and public transport. it would provide 6 number additional dwellings, which would positively contribute to the council's housing land supply. There'd be economic benefits during construction and from spend by new residents, and there are no technical consultee objections, including with regard to highway safety, but also with respect to arboricultural impacts, ecological impacts, heritage and archaeological impacts. In terms of amenity, which has also been raised, those would be fully considered at reserve matter stage, but there's no reason to consider a suitable scheme could not be delivered. So the recommendation is for approval with conditions, and those conditions are as set out there: the standard time limit and reserve matters requirements, requirement for further archaeological work, construction and environmental management plan to manage the impacts of the construction phase, the off-site highway works required to increase awareness of the Beggars Lane junction, a construction management plan, tree protection measures, landscape and ecological management plan, and construction and ecological management plan, including evidence of the provision of the mitigation, a surface water drainage strategy, replacement tree planting, details of the materials and finishes for the dwellings, cycle, scooter and storage provision, and landscape maintenance. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Right, now the objectors, call the speakers in order. Josephine Palmer, please. Thank you. Would you like to go up to the lectern? Switch the microphone on. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
So far, what I've heard is a lot of tosh. I live in Beggars Lane. I have done for 20 odd years. It's a lovely, quiet lane. With this development, it's going to create absolute havoc along there. All your pictures and everything look very good on screen. I would like some of you to come and walk down Beggars Lane to see exactly what it's like rather than see it on photographs. I'm totally against the planning being 6 properties. If it was 4 bungalows, then yes, I think that would be satisfactory. All this is in complete disregard to the area. I'm a bit nervous at the minute, so it's in complete disregard to the area. The road is a nightmare to drive in, drive out, to have a lot of buildings developed in the lane. It's going to create a lot of transport that's not needed, actually. I don't really know I can say anything else. Totally against it. Please take the residents into thought of you approving this application, or just reduce the amount of properties. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can assure you that members do take everything into consideration very seriously. Is there something else? Can you put your microphone on, please?
Yeah. Have you been to Beggars Lane yourself?
We don't enter into dialogue,
No,
I'm sorry.
Exactly.
But I think local members certainly are aware of it, and they will make their views known.
Yes, but please consider the residents. We've got 8 properties there already. To have another 6 properties with lots more vehicles, pedestrians are walking up and down the lane, children, animals, we've got hedgehogs, we've got bats, we've got slow worms. Everything is going to be destroyed because someone wants to make a lot of money. The council will only make 15,000 a year from council tax, so please consider what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Council tax is not a consideration in planning matters. Right now, you have Gordon Martin, please. Welcome to the meeting. Mr. Martin, you have 3 minutes.
As a resident of Beggars Lane, and our bungalow is one of 2 on the eastern boundary of the proposed development site, there is a high bank to our boundary, and we are unable to get to the far side in order to clear it. We have erected a fence along the top of our bank, and in order to prevent the property being overgrown by the unkept field. Will the council note that the line of this boundary needs to be further defined? The revised outline application shows a change from 8 defined properties to 6 undefined properties. This change needs to be clarified, and the council will confirm that consideration will be given to the individual dwellings to be single-storey dwellings in keeping with the rest of Beggars Lane. The proposed development will dramatically increase the traffic flow by 12 to 18 cars, as parents and children all tend to have cars and visitors. Has the council taken into account the vehicles will park in an already narrow lane and cause massive congestion, especially for those with motorhomes and caravans trying to access properties? Also, large commercial vehicles and, more importantly, emergency vehicles trying to get through. Opposite our bungalow are steps allowing pedestrians from St Paul's Estate to access the main town and schools in one direction, and the industrial estate and shops in the other. This access is popular to dog walkers and children at play. Can the council advise if any consideration will be given to limiting injury or death with the risks of the proposed increased traffic? Lastly, and probably our main concern, is the access to and from Beggars Lane. We constantly run the risk of having an accident due to the current lack of visibility when coming out of Beggars Lane. The 2024 traffic survey shows nearly 13,000 vehicles travel the A375 Sidmouth Road passing Beggars Lane on a daily basis. Vehicles coming down Sidmouth Road do not realise there is a road on the left and go straight over and go over the offset roundabout and drive straight through at speed. Road users do not take any notice of the existing signage or road markings. This junction needs further consideration from both Council and Highways Authority, as more accidents are occurring than have been suggested by the application. Does the Council have any proposals as to how this access road is going to be dealt with moving forward? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. We have the agent, George Houlet. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Stuart Houlet. Sorry.
No problem. Good morning, members. I'm the planning agent for this application, and I'm speaking on behalf of the applicants, the Yo Power family. Firstly, we'd like to thank the case officer for the comprehensive report and presentation and the support that he's provided throughout the process, which has led to the positive recommendation. The site, as you will see, is an obvious infill plot within the settlement boundary and was previously identified by the council in the 2021 urban capacity study for around 13 dwellings. Whilst that process was not obviously subject to the detailed assessment of planning application, it hopefully does demonstrate the applicant's willingness to take full account of the characteristics and constraints of the site and to evolve the scheme accordingly, which now stands at a maximum of 6 dwellings. The reduction in scale has also been in line with a number of initial comments that were made on the application, and as a result there have been significantly fewer objections to the amended scheme, acknowledging that there are obviously still objections out there. Another area of compromise has been the site access, for which several options have been discussed with the case officer and the tree officer in order to find the optimum location. Whilst this does result in the loss of a poorer quality oak, it will ensure the higher quality cherry and field maple can be retained and protected for the longer term, and is a solution supported by your tree officer. The applicants are happy to accept the proposed condition to secure new planting in lieu of this loss. The Highways officer has confirmed that the proposed Beggars Lane access is safe and provides appropriate visibility, and therefore raises no objection to the scheme. As you've heard, there is local concern around the existing junction of Beggars Lane with Sidmouth Road. Notwithstanding that this is an existing issue, as you've heard, and the limited scale of the development, the applicants are very willing to accept a condition for improvements identified by the Highway Authority to be made to the roundabout at this junction. This will provide betterment on the current situation. However, it's also important to recognise the scheme is for 6 houses, or maximum of 6 houses, which will not significantly add to the volume of traffic, and that Beggars Lane will still retain its quiet and semi-rural character. Hopefully, members recognise the applicants have worked with the case officer and the consultees throughout the process, providing additional information and making appropriate amendments to the scheme and to overcome technical objections. As a result, the outline scheme does demonstrate that a deliverable development sensitive to its surroundings can be achieved, with the obvious point that the full details will come forward as part for subsequent reserved matters. To conclude, there are a number of clear benefits to the scheme in that it will provide additional housing in a very sustainable location with good access to a wide range of facilities. It will also contribute to the council's current housing shortfall, and mitigation includes retention of the majority of trees and hedgerows with additional planting and ecological enhancement to be secured. In addition, proposed off-site highway works will improve an existing situation. These benefits and the lack of outstanding technical objections weigh significantly in favour of the grant of outline consent, and given this, we hope members can support your officer's recommendation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next, we have the ward member, Councillor Roy Collins, please. You can use the microphone where you are, Roy, if it's any... All right.
Thank you, Chair. I've known this site for over 68 years. It's farmland, really, or horticultural land, and that's not in the officer's report. Over the years, there's been sheep grazing there and vegetables grown there, potatoes particularly. It's the best land in Honiton to grow potatoes. I know the Power family for many years. The roads there, particularly the Sidmouth roundabout, that ought to be shut off, because I've seen many accidents there. More bumps and scrapes, lots of bumps and scrapes. I've been late to this meetings before now because there've been accidents there and ambulance have been there. An awful lot don't get reported. That could be shut off and a road put through Heath Park so that would be alleviated. Beggars Lane is such a stupid name. I cannot understand why it was changed. It was always St Michael's Road, known as that for all my lifetime until Beggars Lane got involved. There were never any beggars there. I cannot understand that one. Maybe the road junction could be put into the roundabout near the motel, or near Aldi there, that roundabout. I don't see why the road can't be put back into that one now. There's a junction there, but I would very much like to see Sidmouth Road shut off. And if you do have to develop this land, being good agricultural land, then you should be building a lot more houses than 6. I should have thought you'd get 15 in there at least on a hectare of land. And I'd like to see a footpath carried on from Exeter Road going through that site if you're going to build there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. And I think that probably most of us know of names that have been changed over the years with no real reason for doing so. So thank you for that. Right, questions, members? Councillor Faithful.
Thank you, Chair. Have we got any clear indication from Devon County or anywhere as to what they're going to do exactly on Sidmouth Road Junction?
Can I ask Charlie for that?
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, in their consultation response, the Highways Authority's suggestion is that they would like to see some ghost white lining build out on the Beggars Lane Sidmouth Road junction. So that's just line painting to make that junction more prominent within the highway, and also repeater signs to make drivers coming along the Sidmouth Road aware of the upcoming mini roundabout. So there are some already, but they want to increase the number of those to increase awareness.
Thank you. Any more questions? No questions. Then we move into debate. I think Councillor Brown, you're a ward member. I think you go first. Do you?
No,
Or unless we've all.
it's my wife that's a ward member.
Oh, beg your
I'm
pardon.
not, but I don't mind going first if you
No.
want.
So I'll take you in order. First hand up. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I mean, I live probably 200 yards away from this roundabout, and I've driven past it loads of times and seen not accidents that you class as accidents, they're classed as shunts, where, you know, they just sort of scratch one another or whatever. They're not reported because it's not worthwhile, because you'll end up losing your access or your no claims bonus or whatever else that takes place. But it is a bad junction. What it needs is one of two things. It needs a footpath going down that side, because you're increasing the flow there from 8 to 14. And what it could really do with, though, is a traffic light on that particular part. Like further down the road, if you come out the roundabout and go straight down the road opposite, there's a narrow piece and there's a traffic lights there. And when cars are going along, they go on alternatively. They're controlled by the traffic that crosses them. And if that was put on that junction, that would stop anything like that happening and make it a lot safer, rather than trying to improve the roundabout.
Thank you.
That's what it basically needs, one of those two things there. You know, I've got no problem with the houses being built or anything like that there. I mean, that's, you know, it's good land for building on, right in the town centre. It can't come out on Exeter Road because that's the main road. And highways would never have allowed that anyway. But coming out on that one, it's fine, providing, you know what I mean by the traffic lights, don't you, that you can have there that fluctuate. That's what it basically needs, and that would make that road safer.
Thank you. Can I go to Charlie again? Charlie, is the ghost markings, are they the only suggested improvements, or are there others?
Yeah, it's a suggested condition from the Highways Authority, which reads, off-site highway works, no development take place until off-site highway works as described above. And described above is the works I described previously, which is the ghost white lining and the repeater signs. So that's the only requirements that the Highways Authority have.
Yeah, so I think that's quite definitive, really. That highways haven't asked for any more, but there will be improvements. Councillor Barlow.
Thank you, Chair. I totally agree. Well, we're not experts in roadworks. The experts are Devon County Highways. And at the end of the day, if they say there isn't a problem, or the problem, they can construct new lines, etc., that will make it better. Then at the end of the day, we can't really argue against that. It's 6 houses as well, down a lane. It's not a huge amount. I almost agree with Councillor Collins. I am surprised that we are just putting 6 houses down here. We have a housing shortage at the moment, and at the end of the day, the land would take more. But I accept that the other houses in that area are larger, and certainly the same sort of area, 6 houses for 0.4 of a hectare. So, when you're ready, I am very happy to recommend approval of this as per officer recommendation. The only thing I would like to add, which is my standard thing, is water butts. I know it's an early stage, and I know this is reserved matters. However, putting in an early stage, 110 litre water butt per bedroom, because at the end of the day, flooding is an issue that is brought up everywhere. The more we can prevent it, the better it is. Thank you.
Right, I trust that the agent will take note of that request, please, Mr. Hooley. Thank you. I'll go to Honiton Ward member, Councillor Levine, please.
Thank you, Chair. I agree entirely with what Councillor Brown said, because the roundabout is dangerous. I drive up and down it quite often. There's traffic piling up. People just hair down the road, up and down the road, and you don't see Beggars Lane at all. My other problem is wildlife, like me, because I have a walking route from Blackdown House to the centre of town, and that takes me down Beggars Lane. It's a wonderful country lane in the middle of Honiton. And people do use it, cyclists, walkers use it to get in and out. And I think the extra traffic is going to make life difficult for walkers, and we're supposed to look after them. So that's one side. On the other side, it's a prime site in the middle of town. I've walked past it and wondered, why hasn't it been developed before? Because there are properties all around it. Nobody is growing potatoes, not that I've seen anyway. So I don't see any reason why we can't use it as a development land.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Levine. Councillor Faithful.
Thank you, Chair. Well, first thing for me is this access onto Sidmouth Road, and I don't really think that just painting white lines on a road is really that effective. I would want to see something more substantial, like a curb moving out to actually force the vehicles out away from that junction so they can have proper view, because you just get Arctics and things like that coming down Sidmouth Road and wanting to turn right into the station or whatever, or you get the buses, and they need the full width of the road. And a bit of white paint on the road, I mean, we get it in Sidmouth Road in Otley, we've got a lower pavement and vehicles drive straight over the pavement. Forget about having white line. So I would want to see something better than that. I'd also taken on board what residents are saying. I realise this is only outline planning, but I mean, there is at least one of those bungalows is actually converted to a loft conversion. So whether chalet bungalows or something like that, and whether that you can have them facing north-south, so that the ends, you can have just plain road walls, so that they're not overlooking into neighbours' properties. But I think it's difficult to say no to this, but I think we should be taking more notice of what the residents are saying. And the main thing for me is pushing more substantial improvements to the junction onto Sidmouth Road.
Yeah, well, you've had the highways advice, and the other things you mentioned probably would be helpful, but that'll come in at the reserved matters stage. Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I agree with what Colin Brown, everybody's saying about Sidmouth Road, and I mean, I don't think by putting more lining down it's going to do anything at all, because that erodes, and then, of course, you're back to stage one. What you need to put in there is traffic light control at that junction, so the whole area is controlled by traffic lights. And I think we should go back to the county council and ask them to actually think again.
Yeah. Charlie, can we do that? Can we go back to, without deferring the application, but is there room for further negotiation with the county, or is that final?
Well, I mean, the county have looked at it and have looked at the evidence that the applicants put forward as part of their application, and they've come to their professional view that the works that they're proposing will be satisfactory.
Yes, Wendy.
I think it's important to consider how much of the problems that people are aware of at that junction are a consequence of traffic coming from Beggars Lane versus most of the traffic, the vast majority of traffic, which is just coming up and down the main road itself. This development will add a very tiny, proportional, additional proportion of vehicles coming onto that junction. And we do need to be proportionate. the MPPF advises that things should only be refused on grounds of highways in terms of capacity, etc., at junctions, when the impact is going to be severe. And I think that an additional 6, the impact of movements from 6 dwellings, when you put that in the context of the amount of traffic that is going up and down the main road, is going to have a very, 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 very small impact on that junction. And I think that the requests from the Highway Authority are proportionate relative to the impacts of this particular development. I think the issues that are being looked at today in terms of looking at traffic lights, I mean, if there is genuinely a problem at that junction, that's something that the Highway Authority and, you know, you as members can obviously be talking to Devon County and saying that generally you feel there needs to be improvements at that junction. But is it as a consequence of this development, and will it be made worse? I think the officer view is that it won't be, and that what is proposed is proportionate to the impacts that would arise from this development.
Thank you, that's helpful. Councillor Haggerty, please.
Thank you, Chair. I see no problem with the application. The access is going to be something decided by Devon County and Highways. I'm surprised there's not going to be any more than 6 on it. I agree with Councillor Collins. So I quite happily propose to accept when you're ready as well.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey, you've already spoken to Councillor Brown, so have you, Councillor Babel. Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, sorry. Can we do a recommendation to Devon County that they look at a traffic light system going on that corner?
I think we've already had the advice from the officer.
I think we can independently ask them to look at that junction separately from this application, if that's what members want.
Thank you, members. Well, there we have it. The impact. I mean, yeah, Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Chair. I can see everyone's point of view on this. However, if I was to be a resident of Beggars Lane with young children, I would not be happy with the young children walking to school up a single track lane with no streetlights. And then to get to the roundabout, which is very fast. I know it quite well. People come down from Tesco's and very seldom do they stop or even slow down. So young children and elderly people, such as myself, have to cross that road to get into the town centre and to get to the hospital and the station. And I think there should be a pedestrian crossing there, which could be, I think it would be sufficient, because that would make the vehicles slow down, and perhaps some rumble strips, the white rumble gravel coming down Sidmouth Road prior to the roundabout would make people aware to slow down. And I think that would be an effective but least expensive way of putting it right. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. There is, I'm looking at this, there is a crossing.
A pedestrian crossing just before you get to Beggars Lane and the roundabout.
Yeah, just before you get to the roundabout. Thank you for that. Let's say the impact is it's within a built-up area boundary. I expect most areas in the UK that have been developed were leafy and quiet at one time. It's acceptable according to officers' reports, and no objections from Highways. The ecologist has said that the application was made before extra legislation came in. So, you know, we can't refuse this. We have no grounds to refuse it. So can I have Councillor Chapman, you haven't spoken.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, this is a lane without any pavements, so pedestrian cyclists are coming down. Now, looking at it from a driver's point of view, when you're going round the roundabout, you're looking at the traffic. You're not looking at a little entrance from a lane. This is why there's lots of bumps and screeching of tyres, things like that. And I really think that junction has to be vastly improved, or maybe something done to the roundabout so people have to be more cautious approaching, because it's very difficult when you're driving around there to suddenly see a lane and a car coming out with the bushes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, is anyone ready to make a recommendation?
Madam Chair,
Councillor
I haven't had a
Barlow.
chance to respond
Yeah,
to
you have spoken.
I haven't, not since our officer's comments about the highway.
Were you named?
Well, no, but I'm still trying to respond to our officer's
We've had
comments.
all the information from highways.
The comment
All right,
is
then.
that basically I'm fully aware that the increased traffic in Sidmouth Road is what the issue is. But this planning act, we've never had reason to respond to this until this planning application. And that's where it's generated this issue, brought this issue up. So I think it is relevant. It's not the fact that it's the traffic volume is coming off Sidmouth Road, is the fact that you're having to pull out there. And yes, there is a pedestrian access, pedestrian crossing, because I've walked along there plenty of times.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barlow.
Thank you, Chair. I hear what everyone says, and I understand the Sidmouth Road is a busy road. I would just like to point out that when you're on a roundabout, you look right, and the people coming out, the responsibility will seriously be with the people coming out of the small entrance to look right and double check. There will be improvements by Devon County Council Highway. It's not perfect. I think someone said there was 13,000 usages on that road a day, I think I heard.
I think that was from one of the objectors.
Right, so 13,000 usages. You know, 6 houses going on to a 13,000 usage road, I think is about, if you allow 4 usages a day on average, 24, you know, it's 0.018%. So it really doesn't make any difference to that road. I think people have pointed out, and that we're going to write to Devon County Council to ask them to look at that, because I quite agree there are bumps and scrapes in that. It's the road I use every time I come here. So I accept that at the end of the day, it isn't brilliant, but I don't think that can stop us putting in 6 houses down there when we are about to look at places in green spaces, etc., not in a outside the built-up area boundary. And I just think we need to support this. So subject to I would like conditions put on about the water butts at this early stage. I think it should be done on every one we do. I will be very happy to recommend approval. Thank you.
Can we do that, or will it come in later?
We can put that on, yes.
Okay. We can do that. Is it Dell? Are you seconding? Anything to add?
No, fine.
No,
Good, thank you.
okay. Are you happy with the water butts
Yes, I am,
condition?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Right, we take that to the vote. Do you want to do that, Damien? No. Okay, can I ask, for those in favour of the proposal, please raise your hands.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see arms yet.
Those against? Thank you. Abstention? Okay, then that is clearly carried. Thank you, members, and thank you to the speakers. Move on to the next application, agenda item 8. So we jumped one. Oh, we better ask Councillor Block. I think Councillor Collins is asking her to come back. Councillor Block. Sorry?
Officer switch, so they don't officers going.
Yeah, we'll come to that. Yeah. Welcome back, Councillor Blockton. Right, we go back to agenda item 8 now. Planning application 250057. It's an outline application for land adjoining.
Just pause for a second. David needs to check. There was assessments to be approved as well. So
Oh.
just check.
It didn't say so.
So it's 240687.
Doesn't say so. There is no assessment to that?
Not on the script, but we're just checking that.
No, not on the papers.
No, it's the other one that I was thinking about.
Okay.
Because we've done it.
Okay,
I
okay.
was thinking the first one's got an appropriate assessment, but we've done it.
No,
after.
no, we, yeah, we
Yeah,
swapped them
no
around.
problems.
Yeah, okay, we go back to agenda item 8, then planning application 250057, outline application for land adjoining West Hayes, Eastfield, West Hill, pages 37 to 72. And the recommendation is the habitats regulation appropriate assessment. That's the one Damien was thinking of. And approval with conditions subject to section 106 agreement. And Senior Planning Officer Nigel Barrett will present the report. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. This is an outline application for 9 dwellings, including 4 affordable dwellings, on a site on the northwestern edge of West Hill. Slightly unusually for an outline application, the majority of details have been submitted at this stage, with only the landscaping of the site reserved for a later stage. The site extends to just under a hectare in area, and it's located immediately to the west of a comparatively modern residential development of 11 dwellings at a site known as Hayes End, which was approved around 10 to 12 years ago when the council previously had a shortage in its housing land supply. Like that site, the current application site does contain a significant number of trees, many of which are the subject of a tree preservation order. The site is accessed through the Hayes End development that you can see to the immediate east of the proposed site, off of East Field, which itself is a residential road that serves quite a substantial number of properties off of West Hill Road. In terms of the layout, the 4 affordable units would be laid out in terraced form, which I'm highlighting here. Incidentally, 4 of the units that were approved on the adjacent Hayes End development are adjacent to this site in the position I'm highlighting here. So there would be some degree of continuity in this regard. The remaining 5 plots would all accommodate detached, variously 3 and 4 bedroom dwellings. In terms of elevations, just to give you a flavour of the type and style of units, there's an example of the 3-bedroom house type, and the 4-bedroom house type. I will now quickly run through some photographs of the site so you can get a flavour of its character. This is a view looking into the site from the existing Hayes End development, with the end unit on the terrace of the 4 affordable dwellings, just shown here on the left. And as you can see, this is the turning head at the end of the branch off of the Hayes End development, looking into the site, which is in here. That's a view looking back from the site towards the Hayes End development, with, again, the 4 affordable units on the right and one of the open market units there on the left. That's a more general view looking east across the site, again with some of the Hayes End development housing in the background. And that's a wider view that shows more of the site area in the foreground, again with the Hayes End development beyond it. In terms of the main issues, I think that there are two main issues really. One is the overall principle of development, and the other is how the development is accommodated given the constraints presented by the trees within the site. As regards, I think, the majority of all other contextual matters, the scheme is, there are no particular technical concerns with the scheme. So I think as I see it, these are the two principal issues. And on the first of these, as will have been well documented, the council is currently unable to demonstrate a 5-year supply of housing land in line with government requirements. As such, the so-called tilted balance presumption in favour of sustainable development that is set out in the National Planning Policy Framework is engaged. And in such circumstances, the NPPF states that permission should be granted unless any adverse impacts of doing so would significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits when considered against the policies across the NPPF as a whole. In this case, the site is considered to occupy a relatively sustainable location in terms of its proximity to the main services and facilities in West Hill, and access to which is almost predominantly achievable via pedestrian paved and well-lit routes. I'm thinking particularly in terms of the primary school and the village supermarket at the former Potter's Country Market site. The proximity to services is, in the view of officers, broadly comparable to that of the site off Windmill Lane to the northeast, which I'm highlighting on the image here, upon which committee resolved earlier this year to grant planning permission for 31 dwellings, as well as an adjacent site, which again I'm highlighting, to the east of that site and to the north of Hayes End and Eastfield, upon which up to 30 houses have been approved. So again, in the view of officers, there are some comparisons to be drawn in terms of the distances to services and facilities, with around a 0.7 kilometre journey to the supermarket that I mentioned, and approximately 0.6 kilometre distance to the primary school, which is slightly nearer. The sustainability, or the relatively favourable sustainability credentials of the site were recognised in an assessment undertaken when the site was presented to members of the Strategic Planning Committee last year as a potential housing allocation within the emerging local plan. The principal reason that it was discounted for inclusion in the plan was owing to the constraints presented by the trees that were considered to be prohibitive to development of the site. However, in terms of this current application, there has been considerable dialogue, discussion and negotiation involving the council's tree officers in regards to the layout of the scheme, its relationship with the trees on site, and the number, species and condition of the small number of trees that are proposed for removal, which stands at 4, one of which is already dead. So far as that goes, therefore, the scheme is now acceptable to the council's tree officers, subject to a revised tree protection plan and arboricultural method statement being worked up and submitted for the council's approval. As such, in the light of the detailed arboricultural assessment to which the site has been subject, it is no longer considered by officers that the effect on trees represents a sustainable ground upon which development can reasonably be, of the site can reasonably be resisted. In terms of the impact of development upon the character and appearance of the wider area, the site is considered to be visually and spatially well contained within and largely screened from view from more open countryside beyond it by not only trees within the site, but also established tree, hedge and woodland screening around its perimeter, including a belt of trees to the west between the site and the B3180 that connects the former halfway in to the south with the Daisy Mount roundabout off the A30 to the north. As such, in officers' view, in the view of officers, it's not considered that the scheme would present a significant visual intrusion upon the wider landscape beyond the village. Certainly not in comparison with the scheme for 5 dwellings off of Lower Broad Oak Road on the opposite side of the village that was or has recently been approved on appeal, contrary to the officer's view at the application stage, to which Mrs. Ormsby referred at the beginning of the meeting. That site is also itself considerably further from the main services and facilities within the village and less well connected with well-lit pedestrian footways. Again, as alluded to, that appeal decision gave significant weight to the need to boost the housing supply over all other material considerations, including a neighbourhood plan policy that sought to protect a view across that site towards East Hill from Lower Broad Oak Road. There are no such protected views advocated in the neighbourhood plan for this site. So, having regard to these two principal considerations, together with the absence of any other technical objections, it is considered in this case by officers that there would be no adverse impacts arising from the development that would significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits of the boost to housing land supply, including the provision of affordable housing that the proposal would facilitate. As such, the tilted balance presumption in favour of sustainable development is considered to apply. And on that basis, approval is recommended, subject to a legal agreement being entered into to secure the affordable housing, which incorporates an off-site financial contribution in addition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Right. So now go to the speakers. West Hill Parish Council, Councillor France.
Point of order.
Do apologise.
Reference
Yes,
to Beggars Lane on this. So there might
There
be
we go.
Oh.
Do apologise.
We've got the wrong slide up.
Now it's come. Now it's there.
There.
That's the correct one.
Right, we've got the correct slide up. So, right, Councillor Francis Pullman, please. You have 3 minutes. Welcome to the meeting.
Good morning. The committee report makes some important points about this application. Firstly, it's outside the built-up area boundary and therefore contrary to existing planning criteria. Secondly, a PIP application for development on this site was rejected last year. And thirdly, this location was rejected by the Strategic Planning Committee in their search for development sites as part of the emerging local plan. But despite all this, the committee is now recommended to approve this application, primarily due to the tilted balance. This in effect means that all the objective planning criteria and expertise developed by professionals over many years should be swept aside in order to comply with a top-down directive. So rather than properly considered planning, this is a bit more like 1950s East European Stalinesque central planning, which calls into question the need for a planning department and a planning committee if we simply had to do what we're told to do by the grown-ups. Now, I wasn't going to comment on the sustainability and infrastructure issues, because much has been written about that. But I must confess I was very interested to hear from the planning officer about the supermarket in West Hill, because having lived there for 2 years now, I haven't found one, so maybe he'd be good enough to show me where it is. I do, however, wish to comment on the planned housing density. The calculated density quoted in the committee report is based on the total area of the site. In a recent planning application, 231143 MFUL, for a development at Windmill Lane, which is quite close to this site, there was a lot of discussion about this, and it was agreed then that the density calculation should be based not on the total area of the site, but on the usable area. And on the basis of this, the developer in that previous application had to reduce the number of houses planned on the site to bring the density in line with the surrounding areas. In this case, the usable land has been calculated as 0.15 of a hectare. And to be consistent, this is the area which should be used for the density calculation. And using this calculation, the proposed density is 60 houses per hectare, which is significantly greater than the surrounding area. The ecological impact assessment has a section concerning bats, in which it states, with between 11 and 16 bat species using the site, over 70% of bat species which could possibly be observed in this geographic location have been detected on this site. The bat assemblage on this site is therefore of national importance. The committee report says surprisingly little about this matter, and I believe we should ask ourselves whether the provision of a couple of bat boxes per dwelling is actually a suitable way of dealing with a subject of national importance. There's been no comment in the committee report about the specific housing need in West Hill. And looking at property websites last night on the internet, there are currently over 35 properties for sale in West Hill. One agent alone boasts of having 35 properties on its books. The properties on the market range from large 5-bedroom houses to 2-bedroom bungalows, and this is currently around 10% of the total dwellings in West Hill. So if people are really desperate to buy a property and come and live in West Hill, they can do that right now without having to resort to destroying valuable open countryside. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Pullman. The agent next, Andrew McNaughton, please.
Thank you, Chair, and the committee for the opportunity to speak in support of this application. We are pleased the cooperation with East Devon District Council has resulted in a positive recommendation. Sustainable development lies at the heart of this carefully considered application that is compliant with the Ottery St Mary Neighbourhood Plan, East Devon District Council Local Plan and the latest NPPF guidance. The proposal for 9 houses includes 4 affordable homes, a financial contribution to make the scheme policy compliant for rural housing, providing 50% affordable. These aspects, together with other financial contributions toward the Pebblebed Heath SPA, are secured via unilateral undertakings signed and submitted in support of the application. The style and the design of the proposed properties is inspired by the distinctive local character highlighted in the neighbourhood plan and evidenced in by our recent development at Hayes End. The trees on site and their retention are a critical design aspect that was reflected in previous planning permissions. The trees on site are covered by an area TPO. The proposal seeks the removal of 2 trees to provide access and a further tree that is severely storm damaged. To offset these removals, it is proposed to plant 6 semi-mature trees reinforcing the eastern boundary and a further 18 fruit trees together with a wildflower habitat area. This, together with substantial hedgerow planting totaling 260 metres, focus on improvements for the biodiversity on site. The fruit trees and wildflowers will encourage insects that in turn encourage bats, nesting birds and dormice. Neighbourhood Policy NP26 identifies 9 criteria for development proposals, and these are: new development will maintain the low density pattern of development in West Hill and should reflect built density and layout of the surroundings. Proposals for the developments for more than 1 dwelling must show individual variation between the units. Proposal for developments will include off-road parking. Access to properties will be designed to minimise any harm to Devon banks and hedges and be designed to enhance the street scene. Where new boundaries are required, these should consist of Devon banks or hedges incorporating native species rather than metal or close-boarded fences. Development that damages or results in the loss of ancient trees of good or cultural or amenity value will not normally be permitted. In cases where a proposal for the development is likely to affect existing trees, this should be accompanied by a tree survey establishing the health and longevity of those trees. New development should demonstrate an adequate landscaping proposals have been included to reflect the existing character of the area, and permeable surfaces such as gravel or grass should be used in place of non-permeable surfaces wherever possible. These criteria have been satisfied. As the site is not allocated, it can be considered a windfall gain that will assist East Devon in addressing their current 5-year housing land supply. We request that you approve the application in line with the officer's recommendation. I'm very happy to answer any questions if required. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr McNaughton. Next we have Ward Member Councillor Jess Bailey. Welcome to the meeting, Jess.
Thank you very much. As a ward member, I'm strongly opposed to this site being, this application being approved, and I support the comments from the chair of the parish council. And I think I would just reiterate that the importance that although this is described as outline application, it's really a hybrid application. So you are actually being asked to approve the layout. For me, the committee report fails to recognise 3 key aspects of the site. We've heard from my colleague that it's a site of national importance for bats. That wasn't even mentioned this morning by our case officer here today. Second, it's on the National Priority Habitat Register. Third, its wooded nature, which we can see, which isn't up at the moment, but we can see from the aerial photo, materially contributes to the woodland setting of West Hill. East Devon District Council has a legal duty in its decision-making to apply the mitigation hierarchy to protect biodiversity. This is avoid, mitigate, compensate. And this duty should underpin its decision-making, but it hasn't even been considered. Because EDDC has not considered this basic principle in its decision-making, allowing this application would cause immense harm to biodiversity and will put EDDC in breach of its legal duty. The specific reasons this application should be refused are: the proposal has a significant and detrimental impact on nationally important bat assemblage. We've heard that the applicant's ecologist records at least 11 species of bats on site and concludes it's of national importance. The scheme does not provide a dark corridor along the southern boundary for foraging and commuting bats, and instead relies on generic future lighting design. No detailed lighting plan or Lux contour modelling has been submitted. It's totally unacceptable to try and protect bats on a nationally important site by simply saying the applicant is required to comply with the provisions of an ecology report when that doesn't contain specific details. In the absence of secured enforceable measures at this stage, the proposal fails to safeguard a bat population of national importance, contrary to NPPF, Paras 186 to 188, and the Habitats Regulations 2007, and our local plan policy EN5. Second, failure to deliver biodiversity net gain. There's a requirement to deliver biodiversity net gain of 10%. However, the metric confirms a net loss. The scheme therefore results in a measurable loss of biodiversity. The applicant proposes to address this with a reliance of unsecured off-site credits with no binding legal mechanism or 30-year management plan. It's unacceptable for this to be dealt with as a condition. The authority cannot lawfully conclude the statutory requirement for at least 10% biodiversity net gain is met. Third, DEFRA trading rules, non-compliance. It requires like-for-like or better replacement of habitats. The applicant's own ecology report recognises the trading rules have not been complied with. As they're not satisfied, the statutory requirement for BNG cannot lawfully be concluded as met. Therefore, it's contrary to NPPF 186 and the Environment Act and Local Plan Policy EN5. 4. Inadequate and unenforceable mitigation detail. Mitigation measures for bats, dormice, reptiles, nesting birds, they're generic, they lack essential information, location, timing, specification, monitoring and long-term management. Key documents, lighting design, detailed landscape plan are absent. Without enforceable detail, the authority cannot be satisfied that adverse impacts on species and habitats of acknowledged importance will be avoided or mitigated. Conditions cannot cure this defect because national guidance requires mitigation to be specific, measurable and enforceable. Generic conditions such as to provide bat boxes or submit a scheme later do not meet these tests and cannot lawfully substitute for detailed assessment at the point of decision, which is today. 5. The applicant requires mature trees to be felled to accommodate the development. Neighbourhood Plan MP26 says that development that damages or results in of a good arboricultural amenity value will not normally be permitted. However, EDDC is proposing to allow trees T41 and T20 to be felled. They're both very substantial, mature Corsican pines. The tree officers highlight that the tree survey omits a tree. That's unacceptable. If EDDC cares about trees, it should not be approving applications like this, which require the felling of too good condition mature trees. Instead, they should be requiring revised proposals which do not cause harm. This is a significantly flawed application which EDDC should refuse. It should be refused due to significant harm to bats on a site of national importance, failure to deliver BNG of 10%, failure to comply with the BNG trading rules.
Councillor Bailey, your 5 minutes is over.
And the adverse impacts would significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Thoroughly well researched, as usual. Thank you. Right, members, questions. Councillor Levine, then Councillor Bailey and Councillor Faithful.
Thank you, Chair. I've got two questions. Number one is, what weight should we attach to the comments of the appeal on the site on Broad Oak Lane that we've just heard just now? It's not quite clear to me what ramifications they hold for this application.
Yeah.
And secondly, I was just looking at the objection raised by the Housing Strategy Enabling Officer about the importance of the neighbouring plan in all this, that if we're going to approve this, are we going to override a neighbourhood plan, or is this something that the appeal inspector says that we can do? Thank you.
Can I put this to the officers? And members, this came through as a planning appeal decision. And if you want to look it up, it came through last week. The decision was made on the 11th of August, so that's Monday of last week. The number is 232612, and it was an outline decision. And I believe that decision, which is here, was decided on the basis of the tilted balance and the lack of 5-year housing supply, land supply. Can I ask the officers to respond, please?
So on the first point, so I think it's obviously important every site needs to be considered on its own merits. I think the points that we were, I suppose, making members aware of is that the appeal that was allowed was a site on the other side of the village, but a site which officers considered to be less sustainable for development. Because it was a site without footways, footpaths and lit routes to access local services. It was a site with a much greater landscape, much more visible in the wider landscape, so likely to have a more harmful impact on the landscape. And also a site where there was an identified valued view in the neighbourhood plan, which would be impacted by developing that open land. And those are the primary reasons that officers, through the delegated process, that application was refused. The inspector, in considering that, acknowledged that there would be landscape harm, acknowledged that it would affect that local view, and acknowledged that the site was not well located in terms of access to local facilities. And to be fair, ordinarily, with all of that, you might have expected the appeal to be dismissed. However, this particular inspector felt that on balance, the lack of 5-year housing land supply and the delivery of housing outweighed those negative impacts. So that's a situation from an inspector looking at a site in the same village context. This site is obviously separate. It's quite different in its characteristics. And I think the reason for mentioning that is really more in terms of the locational aspects, in terms of the fact that this site, both sites are outside the built-up area boundary. The site we're considering today, officers feel is distinctly different in terms of accessibility, because there are footways, there's lighting for most of the route through to the local services. So in that issue, we consider that it is a much more sustainably located scheme. The site specifics obviously need to be taken on their own merits. This site there's lots of trees on the site, which mean from a landscape perspective, it's less visible in the wider context. But yes, there will be a need for some limited tree removal to facilitate the development. And obviously the ecological circumstances of this site are different. So the sites have their differences. The reason for highlighting the appeal was really just to demonstrate how an inspector has currently considered the planning balance for a different site within West Hill. So hopefully that's answered the first question, and then Mr. Brown will respond on the housing officer's comments.
Yeah, and not entirely dissimilar response really, insofar as, in the view of officers, the housing land supply position in the balance of considerations is considered to outweigh the provisions of Strategy 27, to which the housing enabling officer referred in her consultation response. And separately, this isn't being proposed as a bespoke mixed open market and affordable housing scheme under Strategy 35. So yes, the housing land supply position is considered in the overall planning balance to outweigh the provisions of Local Plan Strategy 27, or given the situation, it's considered to represent a material consideration of greater significance in the overall balance.
And just coming back on that point, I think the key thing that the housing enabling officer is pointing out, this site is contrary to policy. It's outside of the built-up area boundary. Strategy 7 applies. It's development in the countryside. Within the countryside, we would normally only support housing that is community-led exceptions, village exception sites, which are at least 60% affordable housing. And that's what the housing enabling officer is referring to. This is not being proposed as a village exception site. It's proposed as effectively a housing development site, proposing affordable housing, but not as a community-led scheme. Because of the 5-year housing land supply situation and the tilted balance, however, the officer view is that the MPPF, the tilted balance, is in favour of sustainable development. So if members conclude that this is a sustainable development, then the balance should weigh in favour, notwithstanding the fact it is contrary to the development plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think I'd like to ask Mr. Barrett to confirm the question of the supermarket. Would that be Morrison's?
So far as I'm aware, there is a Morrison's local or whatever their convenience type store within the former Potter's Country Market building.
Thank you. Right, more questions from Brian Bailey. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I find that this application is totally opposite to the previous one. This application, in my humble opinion, has got a lot going for it. We all have to make sacrifices in development in this area. I think of it especially in Exmouth, where we're inundated with houses in every direction. And I appreciate that West Hill is a very special place, the woodland village, but I can't see that this development is going to make that much difference to the environment. My question is about the bats and about the trees. Let's take the trees first. If the trees are going to lose 3 trees, and one apparently is already dead, so that's 4, would there be replacement trees, and would the developer be obliged in this application to look after those trees for at least 5 years, so they've got a fighting chance of survival?
Yeah, I think if you look, there is a tree protection plan that's conditioned.
That would include that?
Yeah, presumably. Look. And
also, the other part of the question, the bats. Now, they would need a licence to go any further with that amount of bats. 11 species of bats is a lot in a very small area.
I think there are mitigation measures in place.
So on the matter of bats, so it is not, when the survey work was undertaken on this site, there were no bat roosts found in any of the trees that are proposed to be felled. Now, there would be a requirement to check again before anything is felled. It's only if you're disturbing a bat roost that you need a Natural England licence. So at the moment, it appears that a Natural England licence wouldn't be required for the works. But yes, you're quite right. If a roost was found, but they, as I say, they surveyed where they thought there may be, and none were found. But I do think that Councillor Bailey has raised some relevant points, and I would actually like to propose that should members be minded to approve this, there is currently a condition that says that the development needs to be carried out in accordance with the mitigation measures proposed in the ecology report. And I do think that there could be some merit in actually pulling out some of the specific recommendations to make it clearer to any future developer on what is needed in terms of ensuring that there is no light spill onto the tree lines and hedgerows. There's also a requirement about a specific type of glass to be used to minimise light spill from dwellings, etc. So I would like to recommend that that we pull out some relevant specific conditions, and that those condition wordings would then be agreed with the chair and the ward member prior to any decision being issued, if members are minded. And I think that would help just to raise the profile effectively of everything that needs to be very carefully done. Landscaping is a reserve matter still, so we would be looking at tree planting, etc., when we come to consider the landscaping reserve matters. And similarly, we can be looking carefully at the ecological mitigation when we're looking at landscaping reserve matters as well.
Thank you. So, okay? That's fine. No. Thank you. Councillor Faith. Sorry?
Councillor Bailey has got her hand up.
Can I just ask a question? Did the council's ecologist even look at this application?
Well, we have a report, I think, from the...
Our ecologists have been consulted on the application, but to date we've not had a consultation response, unfortunately.
Is there any reason for that? Or you don't know, presumably?
I don't know, I'm afraid.
Well, I think in view of the concerns that have been raised, that is a matter for some concern. I think we should have all the information available, because there's obviously concern about bats. We've had the tree measures that are going to be put in place, but nothing really for bats. But there again, we've been told by the officer that there is no established bat colony in the area.
So just to be clear, so there are bats present on the site, but believed to be foraging, so visiting and commuting around the site. What the surveys found was that there were no roosts that were likely to be disturbed. The roost would have been in trees. So that's what has been confirmed.
Yeah, thank you.
The ecological ecology report that was commissioned and submitted by the applicant. So it's a report prepared by Richard Green Ecology. No.
No, it's almost, I mean, this is quite usual, but I know it sort of raises concerns. It has done with me in the past over certain developments where I'm from. It's a bit like marking your own homework, I suppose. But there, yeah. So although I think we have some misgivings, I think I am reassured by what Mrs. Ormsby has told us, that there are no bat settlements within the area. They are visiting foraging bats. Councillor Faithful.
Thank you, Chair. I did send an image to Wendy, who passed it on to this Wendy, and I haven't seen any acknowledgement apart from the reply I had from Wendy. Could I read out what the sign is saying? Because I think it's really important.
When was this sent?
I sent it about a week or so ago. It's relevant to this site because it's on the footpath. If you go to the view from the road, looking on the footpath, it's just down on, but I'll read it, what it says. The sign is just inside the site grounds and it says, private property, these grounds contain dangerous trees. Please do not stray from the footpath. And I'm not sure how dangerous these trees are, but I know that across the road you've got Prickly Pear Blossoms Park, and there's pine trees always getting blown over and blown across the road and blown all over the place. So my question is, how safe and sound are the remaining trees, and how many would be needed to be felled to make the site safe for the residents?
Well, I think you've already seen that there will be a tree protection plan in place, and I think Mr. Barrett's already said that one tree is dead. They have surveyed them.
Yeah, I think I'm really almost wanting to ask a site visit, because I think you really need to see what the trees are like.
But with respect, Peter, none of us are tree experts, I don't think. And we have to rely on our officers for their expert opinion on that. Would you like to come back on that, Mr. Barrett or Wendy?
I can only reiterate that the tree issues have been given the utmost consideration, with site visits, site meetings involving myself personally, the agent, and our tree officer, the commenting tree officer. And there is a very detailed schedule within the arboricultural report that we've received, which sets out every tree and any and all action that is being recommended. And I think, had that revealed the existence of other trees that needed work and or were dead, dying or dangerous, that would have been the place in which further recommendations could have been made. Respectfully, it's difficult to comment on the image about the sign without really knowing exactly where it was, which trees it relates to exactly. But I can only reiterate that this proposal has undergone extremely thorough scrutiny with our tree officers.
Thank you. I think that answers
Well,
you.
following on from that, what I would like clarification on, I read through the report, and one person is saying they're Monterey pines, somebody else is saying they're Corsican pines, and somebody else is saying they're Scots pines. So which one actually knows one tree from the other?
I think we leave that to the officers, and we've had their report, and the measures are in place. There is a tree protection plan in place, and any trees which are unsafe will, I'm sure, be removed. Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at all the developments around, yes, I know we need to produce more housing. And now we're going outside boundaries. There's a number of developments proposed for West Hill. And I do not believe the infrastructure is sufficient. It's a mini market and the school is full. What else have they got apart from their church? And is there anything in the forward plans to give more for the residents? Or is it all going to, have to go into Ottery? And are they going to increase the car parks there? It's not sustainable. I really don't believe it's sustainable at all. Thank you, Chair.
Right, are there any confirmation on sustainability comments? I think they've got the shop there. What else we got? Village Hall, yeah.
Sorry, in terms of West Hill itself as a sustainable settlement for accommodating more development?
No, what I'm saying is there's no infrastructure. My friend's grandson couldn't get into the school because it isn't that big. and I understand, hearing from her, that that is full. The supermarket, I couldn't do my weekly shop there for me and my family when they're staying. And I'm wondering about infrastructure. We're building houses, which we're told we have to do, and some of them are supposed to be affordable. I can't imagine what price affordable houses are going to be in West Hill. But what I'm saying is there's no plans for playing fields, clubhouses, another shop, anything like that. It's not sustainable, and it's out of town, it's out of Ottery, so you're increasing the traffic roundabout, and we're destroying the countryside.
Councillor Chapman,
You know,
with
but
regard
I
to
really want to
education.
know about infrastructure.
Yeah,
Is there
education
any
is a
plan?
county council matter. The infrastructure, that's taken care of, I think, under strategic planning committee, which is drawing up the local plan, which is progressing through the stages. So, Councillor Barlow.
Well, on that matter, Chair, this isn't in the Regulation 19. Also, on this particular one, this is a self-built thing, so there's no sill that comes with it. So it contributes absolutely nothing. I'm also very concerned about that we don't have our own. We talk about relying on our officers for their skills, etc., which I totally agree, we do. But we haven't even gotten a report, and surely that is so important in an area like this, in a wooded area, outside the Regulation 19. I understand that the recent appeal has come through in a perhaps more important area with views, etc. And I don't believe that was in Regulation 19 either, that plan. So, you know, I can understand the officers saying, well, we should do this. However, we have a local plan. It might be slightly out of date in parts, and we might be waiting for the new one to come through. But I do think, you know, previously when I've always supported the officers with this sort of thing, it's because it's in the Regulation 19 plan coming forward, which is hopefully less than a year away from delivery. And you know, at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, you know, we should support that, because at the end of the day, even though we give it limited weight, the Regulation 19 coming forward. So, you know, to me, I think there should be questions asked of why haven't we got a report from our own officers on this? Is it important? And yeah, I will wait for debate, Chair, and I'm ready to open debate whenever you are on this.
Thank you. Do the officers have any comments? Because we've covered the trees, that's taken care of. I think, or is it in progress? The bats, we've been told there is no evidence
By their own.
by our officers.
Not by our officers, Chair. Sorry, just to correct. By.
I'll ask the officers to comment.
Their
Thank you,
report.
Councillor Barlow.
So the application is supported by an ecological report, but our ecologists were consulted on but have not commented on this. An option for members, if they were minded, if this was the only issue which was of concern, is that it could be a decision could be delegated subject to our ecologists confirming that they have got no concerns or objections, or the decision is deferred until we have comments from our ecologists.
Right, members, would you be happy for this to be delegated subject to the acceptance of an ecology report from our own officers?
I think you might have a point of order from Jess Bailey.
Sorry,
Councillor
but I
Bailey,
think
you
it's
want to say?
completely unacceptable to make a decision where you've got a site of national importance for bats when we haven't had our own ecology officer comment on it, because it relates not only to bats, but it also relates to the BNG, the biodiversity net gain metric. There's no comment from our own officers, so I cannot see how you can do anything other than defer it. Thank you.
Thank
Happy
you.
to move defer, Chair.
Yeah.
Wendy wants to speak first.
Wendy.
Just separately on the BNG matter, BNG is a post-decision matter. So whilst we might consider, often applicants will say, well, this is what we plan to do. We cannot by law agree the biodiversity game plan until after a planning decision has been made. So there's no requirement for them to demonstrate. There is a legal requirement for them to provide 10% biodiversity net gain, but they don't have to demonstrate at this stage how they're going to do it. They have to agree that all before they commence development, after the grant of planning permission.
Right. Now, do we have a proposal?
Propose to defer, Chair, and also just question that Mrs. Ormsby.
Can you turn your mic on?
Sorry, propose to defer, Chair, and just ask the question, why do we always have biodiversity net gain reports in other full applications? This is outlined, that's why, okay.
So a lot of applicants choose to, because it gives better certainty for them about what they're actually doing on the site, how they're going to deliver it. We also have the pre-statutory BNG. So obviously it's certain applications have a statutory requirement. Older applications don't, because they don't. But some of them, particularly major schemes, we have a policy that says that there's, a need for biodiversity net gain, so they will, or there's some neighbourhood plans that have requirements of a biodiversity net gain. I think there's one that we're considering this afternoon that has a neighbourhood plan requirement. So there are circumstances when we do need to look at it earlier, and there's others where we've been given the information, this is what we think we're going to do, but we're not actually formally agreeing the actual biodiversity game plan because we're not allowed to at this stage.
Councillor Papel.
Just a completely unrelated question. The top road in some maps is recognised as a Roman road. Is there anything done about archaeology in the area?
That's a Devon County matter, isn't it? I don't think there's anything here, is there? No.
The archaeology team at Devon County Council, they themselves review regular lists of applications within districts, and if they have some concerns that a particular development could potentially affect an area of archaeological significance, they will comment, usually with recommendations for either predetermination evaluation work of sites, or with a condition or recommending a condition in the event that permission is granted, requiring submission of a written scheme of investigation to the council. In this case, we've not received any comments from the Historic Environment Team, Archaeology at Devon County.
I suggest you maybe approach a county councillor if you've got concerns about that. Yeah. Right, it's been proposed a deferral. Is there a seconder, please? Yes, Councillor Brown. Can we take a vote, please? Oh, yeah. Would you like to read what the proposal entails, please?
Thank you, Chair. So my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Barlow, is that you're deferring to allow the LPA the opportunity to obtain comments on the application from our own ecologist. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's seconded by Councillor Brown. Lovely, Chair. Well, shall I do it then? If we can have everybody in favour of that proposal, please, if you can raise your hands.
1,
2, 3, 4, 5.
Unanimous.
6. Yeah, unanimous. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. That was an interesting debate, and thank you for your contribution, Councillor Bailey. Yeah. We'll take a 5-minute break now. Okay, back by 12 o'clock.
Oh, it's just gone 12 already. It's just
Well, oh, good God. My watch is
back
running.
by 10 past.
It's me.
No, if we miss it out.
No.
We've already
Back by 15:15.
Okay, back by quarter past. Back by quarter past.
Oh man, okay.
Right. Wow, nobody finished well in time.
We could do it all again.
The next two are teeny tiny.
Well, bearing in mind, so
The garden shed is
this year,
but the road is here because
China and
Agenda item 10, planning application 251026, full application. It's before us because the applicant is a member of staff, officer of the council. So the application is 4 Endersley Crescent, Black Horse, Broadcliff, page 110 to 116. Recommendation is to approve with conditions. Over to the Assistant Planning Officer, Tina Song Ashdown, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. This item relates to 4 Endersley Crescent in Black Horse, Broadcliff, and the proposal is for a part retrospective application for a gazebo. It's important to note that this has been brought to the committee due to the applicant being a staff member at East Devon District Council. So here we can see the site location outlined in red, and the site is within the Black Horse settlement under the Broadcliff neighbourhood plan. You've got Tithe Barn to the northwest of the site and Cliffs Honiton to the southeasterly edge of the site here. Moving on to the block plan. So the site lies at the end of this cul-de-sac. It's within a residential area. As you can see, the properties have very long rear gardens. The plan here, the blue box, indicates the location of the gazebo. 4 Endersley Crescent, it's a semi-detached property, and the site itself isn't subject to any restrictive designations. So here are the plans of what is proposed. So it is a gazebo which is approximately 7 metres in depth, 3.5 metres in width and 3.4 metres in height to the roof line. The ground level to the eaves height is 2.4 metres. Here are some photos that I took from my site visit. So this is what's currently been built. You can see the timber frame from the front elevation here. It's proposed that there will be a tiled roof and it will be left open fronted only. There was a pre-existing concrete base to the bottom of the gazebo, which has now been slabbed with sandstone slabs. This is the side elevation. As you can see, it's largely screened from neighbouring properties with lots of trees and shrubbery. And then this is the view from the front elevation that I took on the driveway, whereby this would be public from the street scene as well, and what would be visible. Now moving on to the key planning considerations. So the reasons for this, to me the design is acceptable, it's modest in scale, the materials are sympathetic to the surrounding, there aren't any significant neighbouring amenity impacts due to the screening between the properties with trees, and the positioning again reduces any potential concerns. I believe there's amenity benefits for current and future occupiers, and some economic benefits being minor but positive, including the labour required to construct the gazebo. The reasons against, I haven't identified any here, and the parish council supports the proposal and no objections have been received. So my recommendation is to approve the proposal with conditions. So for the proposal to be built in accordance with approved plans, and also to condition the cladding that is proposed to the sides of the gazebo where it will be visible from the street scene. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Haggerty, I think you were first, and Councillor Bailey, Councillor Payford.
Thank you, Chair. I understand why this has come to committee for the transparency of an officer. Personally, I don't have any members, and I'd be happy to propose going forward if anybody hasn't got any other.
There are.
All right,
we'll
okay.
keep that in mind. But in the meantime, Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Chair. My concern with looking at this is there is a potential to turn it into a residential building, a small apartment for someone. So if it were to be proposed for approval, I would like it stipulated that it's not to be used as a residential building. Thank you.
Do you mean as an independent residential building, or do you mean for residential purposes?
Or for residential purposes, that someone will use it as a small apartment on a full-time basis.
As an independent unit, do you mean?
It could be a family member, they could lease it out, whatever.
So we could attach a condition saying that the building is only to be used for purposes ancillary to the main dwelling.
Yes.
Yep.
Annex.
Thank you.
What's that? That would be an annex, wouldn't it?
Well, from the size of it, so there's an ancillary accommodation could be a hobby room, a garage. It could be a spare bedroom, but generally that's the condition we would normally apply if there was an outbuilding that we felt had the potential to be converted. But in any event, if it was used for independent accommodation, it would need separate planning permission, whether or not we put the condition on. But for clarity, we can add that.
Make another application.
The reason I asked for it's happened several times in Exeter over the years, so that's the reason I asked for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baythorpe.
Thank you, Chair. Am I right in thinking that the privacy, because of the vegetation, is actually vegetation in next door's garden? It's not part of this property?
Yes, that is correct. It is within next door's garden. Also, just adjacent to that is the garage of next door as well, which also partially screens the gazebo, reducing any amenity concerns.
So it's basically up to next door whether or not the vegetation remains. It's nothing to do with this applicant.
Simple matter. Yeah. Okay. No more questions? Oh.
You wanted to.
Well, we had Councillor Haggerty and you're seconding.
With a condition?
So we're moving into debate officially so that we can do this. We're moving into debate. So
We've had a proposal and a seconder. Councillor Levine.
So are we taking on board this additional condition that's been?
Yeah. Do you want to take on board the conditional, the added condition, or I mean?
Yeah, happy with that.
I mean, they'd have to make a
They'd have to make a separate.
application
Sorry, Chair.
anyway.
They'd have to make a separate application because as it stands at the moment, it's an open unit.
Okay with you, Councillor Barlow, on that?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Levine, you raised your hand.
Only to be a seconder. Yeah.
Okay, right, we've had a proposal, it's been seconded. Can we take a vote, please? All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you very much, members. Now we go on to last one for the morning, item 11. Application 251191, full application, 7 Rold Barton, Churchill, Otterton, pages 117 to 123. I think this one's here, I believe, because it's, no, where am I? 117. Yeah, it is the parents of, sitting councillor. Okay. Right. Wendy.
So the application before you is for the erection of a shed in the garden of 7 Roll Barton, Churchill. The reasons this application is before you have been explained. And the reason this needs planning permission is because permitted development rights were removed for this relatively new housing development. Ordinarily, garden sheds don't require planning permission. The site itself, it's within the East Devon National Landscape and is within Otterton Conservation Area. However, the site is very well contained. You can see the location plan there. This shows the location of the proposed garden shed, quite close to the back of the property, adjacent the boundary hedge. It is a standard sized garden shed to be erected. And there you can see the shed location, which will be effectively about, here. It's very well screened, won't be visible from outside the site, would have no adverse impact on neighbours, and this is recommended for approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barlow.
Happy to recommend approval, Chair.
Are there any questions? I take it no. Seconded by Councillor Haggerty. And we have a vote, please. All in favour? Unanimous. Gosh, we're getting on well this morning. Yeah, it's worrying. Yeah. Okay, thank you, members. That concludes this morning's session.
Because that,
isn't it?
Yeah, it has to be two, because that's what's in the agenda. If any
It
public
says,
come.
yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We haven't got any that we can put on, have we?
No, we didn't just check.
We'll just have to have the pleasure of my company a little longer than you thought.